Team, we are about to embark on 4 weeks where we have no curriculum for Connect groups. We are going to end milestones this week. Then Promotion Sunday is August 22nd, and I'd like to do the next milestones then, leaving us 4 weeks in between. Now, I looked around for 4-week Bible studies, didn't find any good ones. They're hard to find in general. So then I began to think about what could be something that we could do for 4 weeks. Well, in the book club on Tuesday mornings, we've been doing some basic, fun, inductive Bible study habits. I'm going to talk about this in a second. Don't look at this yet. All right. The word inductive. All right. If you've never heard of inductive Bible study, you don't know what that means. All right. Inductive is just a kind of a logic word, and it means you start from a place, a text, all right, and you say, I see this here, I see this here, I see this here. What I can conclude from all of these things is this, right? So it's using a passage of scripture and drawing out the central meaning of the text and application of the text based on what's there. It starts small and comes out, all right? It's inductive, all right? So you're saying, I see this here, this here, and this here, and I conclude from this that God is love. All right, it's the opposite of deductive Bible study, which would start with a topic and would say, okay, let's talk about God is love, and now let's go find that in a bunch of different places. All right, inductive starts with a passage. So that's what we're gonna do, inductive Bible study. So in the book club on Tuesday mornings, this is what we've been doing. We put a passage on the board. We've been in Romans. We put a passage of Romans on the board, and then we do basic inductive Bible study habits. And this runs through 3 particular words, okay? These 3 words are, every passage, we want to do these 3 things. Every passage, we want to do observation. Okay, this is number 1. Observation. Observation is just asking, what do we see? So it's not doing anything hard, okay? What do we see? This is what we've been doing every week. I'm putting these words on the board before we begin. What do we see? We're saying there's a phone right there. That's what I'm recording on. I can see the phone. I don't care what the phone is made out of. I just know that it's there. What do we see? We take our passage and we do observation. The next thing is interpretation. All right. So then we're asking, what does the passage mean? What does it mean is what interpretation asks. We don't really care what it means to me. We care about what does it mean? What does God say it means? Okay, so how do we get at interpretation? Well, we need to use this word, context. Context looks above. So if you have your text here, all right, we need to look at what comes before, and we need to look at what comes after to situate our word or verse in context, and that's how we can arrive at a meaning. Even if you're not a scholar, you can do that, okay? And so having a passage printed out or on the board, you look before and behind, and you can kind of situate and begin to discover meaning, interpretation, all right? And then application. So application is the 3rd one. All right, application. We have our shuns, observation, interpretation, application. Application is asking what now, or so what? What do we do with it? All right, so what we're gonna do for 4 weeks is we're gonna do this. This is gonna be your curriculum, and we're gonna do this with the book of Philippians, okay? So we're gonna do a passage of Philippians for 4 weeks, probably 1 passage from each chapter, probably not the whole chapter. Unless you do that in your group, please feel free. But I'm going to give you a printed out page with a big passage from Philippians on it. This is a Romans passage from our book club. But it's going to look like this, printed out for them to draw on, make connections on, make their own observations, applications, find interpretation, all right, on it. So you're going to have that for your group. Every student will have a page. Then use your board. Use your board, okay? Use your board. And use your board to either throw a verse up on the board, write it fully out, leave space, all right, from your passage, and then on the board, tell them, okay, from this text, what do we see? Tell me what we see. All right, we see the word prayer, circle prayer. We see the word good work, circle good work in verse 6. We see Jesus here, verse 6, circle that. We see that Paul is praying always. This is all in chapter 1. Always he's praying for that. Okay, circle that. All right, then if they're kind of dying down observation, maybe you can point out certain things. All right, we have this word prayer here in verse 1, and you can help them make observations by simply saying, what comes to your mind when you think about the word prayer? Basically, you're just trying to get conversation going, thinking through observations, even beginning to think into what does prayer mean? What comes to your mind when you think about prayer? You're having them jot down things, and then you can say, okay, let's consider prayer from our passage. Look around it. All right, think about other verses in the Bible, and maybe you can bring those in. Maybe you can ask them, what are some other verses that you can think of that talk about prayer? Bring those in. Doesn't matter what they are. Just write them on the board. Write them on the board. Fill your board up with what they say, what you say. All right, and help them think through. So put down verses on prayer. So you're beginning to wrap your mind around what prayer is. All right, you notice that Paul is praying always for every person in the Philippian church. So you begin to think about application here. As you're still on prayer, you say, man, so what is Paul praying for? He's praying for everyone. We can see that here. What does your prayer life look like? Who do you pray for when you pray? You haven't even gotten out of one verse. We're in verse 3. What do you pray for? So anyway, you can go in 1,000 different directions here. But you spend time in the text. Spend time in the text. Ask them, what do you see? What does this mean? What is there? Use the board. Use your pages. Let them write, draw. Fill your board up with extra verses, like from around the Bible, to flood your passage with meaning and understanding and application. Allow space for maybe questions. Like if they ask a question about a particular word and it's going to detour you off, who cares? Go the detour. Help them understand the meaning of the passage, how it applies to them. Now, I know a lot of you basically do this. In fact, Julie Parks' class, the 11th and 12th grade girls, I have been printing sheets off for them at their request. So they're doing some of this. I was with Kelly's class last week in the passage from the curriculum, and he basically taught just from the passage, and it was great. But I want us to be a lot more interactive with them. You're not letting a curriculum guide. You're not even really letting you're not really coming necessarily with a plan. You're coming with these 3 questions, and you're going to let the passage do the work. Your group will do the work and kind of let the discussion and the passage take you where it wants to take you. So if you spend all your time on one verse or 2 verses or one word, and you just expand it, you're just flooding the board with stuff, that's great. We just want our students to be able to open their Bibles and know how to do this: observation, interpretation, application. And I get upset at some of these curriculums because they just don't do this, and they don't help us learn the Bible. And so I want to help us learn the Bible, help us learn how to study our own Bibles, help us to understand how to get at meaning, and not just read and ask application, but study your Bible. And so let's help them study their Bibles. So it's going to require, the effort it will require on your part is for you to read the passage on your own beforehand and really pray through it and make your own observations that you see are there. All right, begin to find the real interpretation. Begin to discover what things mean. All right, look around it, flood it with other verses. You can stop at certain words, certain verses, and maybe begin to think through real interpretations based on around the Bible, around the passage. All right, and then begin to think through certain words and verses and come up with a couple of so whats. All right, a couple of applications that you think of. And you don't necessarily have to bring those in, but it allows you to, when you come to these stopping points in your group, to be able to bring up the things that you've thought of already, right? It allows you to begin to help your group think through the verse as you're going. So I want to do this for 4 weeks. So if it doesn't work and it's not going well for your group, or you need more practice with it, the good news is it's only 4 weeks. They probably will struggle at the beginning, maybe, but it will catch on. Our time on Tuesday mornings with this in Romans has just been amazing. And it's a very eclectic group. It's guys, girls, it's different ages, and they're really, really doing this. And it's fun. Make it fun. Use the board. Use colored markers. Make and draw connections and draw words and have them come up and circle stuff and make their own connections. Use them. Get them up out of their seat. Walk them over to the board. So use them. Try to resist doing this by sitting there with them and just you talking about the passage all the time. We don't want that. We want them to discover what the passage is saying and doing. And the best part is you don't run out of material. So if you're walking through kind of verse by verse, let's say, or you're stopping along the way, you just basically, when that kind of begins to die down, you just have the next verse. So just go on to the next verse and do the same stuff. So the passage gets to guide us. So that's going to be our 4 weeks, beginning the 25th of July, which is going to be a pretty dead day. Most of us will be gone, but the ones that are there, I want us to do this. And I'll begin to think through what that looks like for the 25th. But then when we come back, we'll have 3 weeks where we'll do this in all our groups, with a full group. So it should be great. Thankful for your hearts and how well you teach. Keep it up. Keep the Bible at the center of your group. And super thankful for you. Hey, I'm going to try to get us to meet sometime at the end of August. So just be looking for that too. I think that's it. This is a 12-minute video. So sorry. Thanks for listening. See you later.